Hello and welcome to Kramer's Corner with daily technical update on the forex markets, interest rates and crypto. So let's start with this educational video where there's no advice or recommendation whatsoever intended with the euro dollar that has been a little bit weird trading lately. However, it has been in a falling trend or declining or bearish trend here with lower low, lower high and lower low. And I think we could see now it's bouncing a little bit. We talked about last week that it was likely to bounce a bit, and it has done that. It was bank holiday in most countries in the Western world yesterday, so most of the trading was in Asia, although there was a little bit in Europe, of course, and a very fraction in US. And now we are trading here, and I think we could bounce to 160. Probably up to 117 area. We have the 100 moving average coming down to 200 here. That will put a lid on it. We are below the cloud. That also a little bit giving resistance. We are currently also below the 55 moving average. But as we can see here on the RSI, still bouncing off for the third time from the 40 threshold. So still actually in a positive sentiment. That's a little bit weird to see, but that's how it is. So that would be key here. I think the next week or so, will it bounce further up to 50% at 116.85 or even up to 117.10 at 61.8 retracement, a spike up there maybe, or will it slide back lower and continue its push towards 115 and 114? Looking at the weekly chart, it doesn't really give us much other than, yes, we're still in a positive sentiment, bouncing off the 40 threshold there, trading around the 55 moving average, above the cloud, slightly above the cloud. Bigger picture, we're basically just trading sideways here. We've been doing so for, well, the better part of the year, 12 months actually, is spiking higher. So here we are still in a little bit of a bullish trend, but it is a little bit undecided, I would say. So, but we'll have a correction going on, and then it could resume downtrend. Let's see about that. The sterling dollar pushed higher here on yesterday to the 61.8 retracement of this sell-off there, and never closed below the cloud. It did close below this 40 threshold down there, but never closed below the cloud. And let's see what we'll do here next 2 days. If it takes out the peak from yesterday at 135.10, well, then we can see it pushing higher towards the 786 retracement at 135.70 up here. We are already above the cloud and above all moving averages, but slightly negative sentiment. So let's see. I think we'll see it setting back a little bit here, and then we could have another go, and let's see if it can push higher there. Keep an eye on that. Euro sterling, and I think if we zoom out, we can see better what's going on. Actually, in a bearish trend like push with a lot of volatility, you can see the peaks there, declining trend line. We have strong support here, just around 86, 85, 90, 86 area. And I think we could push lower to test that fairly soon, despite it trying to buyers coming in almost every morning, but then it's being sent back, and especially yesterday it was dipped lower. So key strong support down here around 86, and I think it will hold if we are very close to. We were very close to this morning at 86.12, so basically down there. So lower lows, and in the bigger picture also you can see lower peaks, lower lows, but not lower lows here, where it's actually higher lows above the 200 weekly moving average. Still positive sentiment on the RSI. So let's see. It will take time. I think we'll still see it trading around the 86.50 and 86 area for quite some time. Dollar yen, or the yen pairs in general. Dollar yen is trading sideways here, just around the upper part of the cloud, just around the 55 moving average, below the 786 retracement of this sell-off there when the Bank of Japan intervened. 159.50, very close to touch it there the other day, but RSI is still below 60 threshold. So what we need the RSI to get back above 60 threshold up here to confirm the bullish trend. But it seems like market is a little bit shy, a little bit afraid that Bank of Japan will come in and then knock back down once again. It did it here, and we believe it also did it here. Will it do it again after it's been crawling higher here? I think we could see a touch the 786 will trade 159.50, but maybe then they will intervene again. We never know that. So that's the name of the game. Then they take everything out and you know, all rules out when they do that. The euro yen basically trading sideways here between 183.90 and 185.50. That is the range it needs to break out of. If it breaks out of that, then we could see it crawling higher towards the previous peak area, and I'm drawing the Fibonacci from that just to give me some guidance. You can see the 61.8 retracement there at 185.45. If it takes out that to the other side, 786 retracement, 186.37 is in the cards. Still negative sentiment on the RSI, but could turn around if it breaks above that resistance there. Aussie yen, well, also a bit sideways raise trading here. Strong resistance, 114.75. That needs to be taken out for a push higher above 115 towards 116. We can add a Fibonacci to it when that happens, but well, just let's do it here just for the fun of it. So put it there, and we can also see that it's actually pushing above the 786 retracement there already, put towards the 786 at 114.25, but it is the key resistance there at 114.70, 114.75. That is the key resistance. We're still in a bullish trend, positive sentiment on the RSI, although it's been declining lately. But if it pushes back above the falling trend line, especially back above 60 threshold, then expect new highs up there. Sterling yen already broken its key resistance there at 214.25. It's likely to push higher and could push to the 786 retracement there, 215.25. And I think it will do that throughout the session today. Back in bullish trend, if RSI moves back above 60 threshold, it is further confirmed, and then it could push towards the previous peaks there at 216.5, 216.60. But again, will Bank of Japan intervene and knock it down like we saw it back here? So that will be key to watch, and someone should really be careful if we're going long. It could soon enter that. They could certainly intervene. Also, Aussie dollar testing a minor resistance at 71.20. Almost round off a little bit. After this bounce here, strong support at 71. I think it will push higher, possibly towards the 72.30 up here, which is the 786 retracement. Key strong resistance 72.80 up here. That should be observed. So in the bigger picture, we basically trade sideways, but positive sentiment, and we are above all moving averages that are all rising. That indicates underlying bullish trend, and I think it will push higher in the coming days and weeks. Dollar Canada flirting with the 61.8 retracement and the 200 moving average just above the cloud, but positive sentiment indicating higher levels. 55 moving average also rising, 100 slightly rising, but it is a bit of a struggle here. But I think if it takes out the peak there at the 22nd of May, that's Friday, at 138.25. If it takes out that peak, expect a push up to the 786 retracement at 138.77. That is likely to be seen, and I think that scenario will play out maybe after a little bit of a setback, and then it will have to go. So if it takes out Friday, expect a push higher there. Swiss franc. Interesting development here, still in this falling channel-like pattern, broken below the minor support there at 91.15, with that bearish candle there on the 22nd, testing the falling trend line there, opening lower here this morning, and testing the side of the cloud. Negative sentiment on the RSI, indicating lower levels. So I think, despite the fact we could push higher to 91.50 possibly, then we are in a bearish trend. Also 100 moving average coming down, 200 coming down. 55, strangely enough, is still a little bit rising, but give it a couple of days, I think it will slowly turn around. There could be some corrections here, but again, I don't think it will be higher than 91.60 area at the 38.2 retracement area around that level. Even if we measure from just the last one, well, then it's just around here at 91.50 area. Dollar Swiss, just above the 61.8 retracement there at 78.05, bouncing a little bit, could bounce further, but not much. I think we have the 200 coming down. We're actually below the cloud. Negative sentiment on the RSI. I think we could push lower if it takes out the lows from yesterday at 78.07. Around that. If it takes out the lows there, then expect a push down to around 77.75, the 786 retracement, and then we are certainly down here in this region here. That is likely the scenario to play out, given the fact that we have all this 200 down, 100 down, and below the cloud, despite the fact trying to get back into it there. The dollar index still failed to, after a couple of tries, failed to close the gap with a close above the 99.48 upper resistance. So it hasn't really closed it, despite the bump, it didn't stay above. So now it's trading around the lower part of it. Could have another go in a couple of days maybe. Let's see about that, but otherwise maybe setting back to the 38.2 retracement there at 98.77. But keep an eye on that. Depends what if it takes out the lows from yesterday, maybe even down to the 98.5. But still in a bullish move. We are above the cloud. We are positive sentiment on the RSI, indicating likely higher levels. And then let's move on to the interest rates. We saw the US 10-year Treasury yield. Well, actually, interest rates all around the world got knocked back lower towards the end of last week. It already started midweek with the US 10-year Treasury yield stalling and being set back, and didn't get all the way up to 470, down to the 38.2 retracement at 451. Could push lower. Some support here at 448. That is also where we were last couple of weeks ago, where it couldn't make up its mind. Then it took off in that region. So there's some strong support there. However, looking at the bigger picture, and let's do that again, and let's move on to the weekly. You can see if I zoom out there, you can see it is actually flirting with the falling trend line, which is quite normal after breaking above it and setting back a little bit. We are in a bullish trend, as you can see, positive sentiment also on the weekly. So later on, we could see the US 10-year Treasury yield bouncing after a correction. Let's see how it can take it down to 445, possibly down to that, maybe even 440. I'm not quite sure about that, but around 448, 445 is quite possible. The EU 10 really smacked down here late last week and continue on the yesterday, bouncing a little bit. We have some stronger support here at 299 coming back from here. You can see it around that area. There's some support, and I think we'll see it bouncing, and we can then add a Fibonacci to this and see, all right, could it bounce up to the 38.2 retracement just above 3%, 303? Is quite possible can close this gap there. If it takes out this 290, well, then we are looking at levels around 284, 282. The UK 10, well, broken its rising trend line there. Also being pushed lower just after touching 520, down to around the 488 area. There's some support here in the 61.8 retracement, 487, 488. That could be touched if it takes out the lows there from a couple of weeks ago at 486, well, then we could be looking at 479. The Japanese 10 also in the correction phase, which is quite normal after this strong push is setting back a little bit. Let's see how much. Will it actually set back to 254? I'm not quite sure about that. This one is misplaced. There we are. 252 it is actually. If we take the last leg up there, well, then we're already at the 38.2 retracement at 268. But I think maybe we could sit back to test the rising trend line there, and the possibly 260, 264 retracements could be seen. On the Bitcoin story, well, Bitcoin's bounced off 74,500, just above the key support here at 73,700. Strong, very strong bounce, and I think it could bounce further. And if you're a very short-term trader on Bitcoin, well, then you could put Fibonacci levels on it there too. But if it takes out this support there, well, then we could test the lower rising trend line, possibly lower. Ethereum, not really following Bitcoin that much. Yes, it did blow up, then it bounced at the 786 retracement at 2050. Didn't get all the way below 2000, but very close to 2000 indeed, and that would be key. If it takes out that, well, suddenly we're looking lower, but I think it will also bounce here the next few days. And you can also here, you can add a Fibonacci to this move down there, then you have some levels to work with. All right, that's all for today on the FX, but look out for commodities update a little bit later with gold, silver, copper, and other commodities. Have a nice day and keep charting out there.